Hey, podcast listening people, welcome to another exciting, of course it's exciting, I'm bringing it to you, episode of the B2B Mentors podcast. And of course, this is free to you. I'm bringing you top experts, CMOs, what I would say business celebrities, and of course, my favorite people in the whole world, which are real practitioners who are executing on these strategies and give you a chance to just listen into the conversation and be able to actually execute on something when you leave this podcast. And I know for sure, especially today, the insights you're going to get are phenomenal and probably some areas that you have not heard from anywhere else. And Alan, certain POV, Alan Gonsenhauser, twice in a row.
Very well, yeah.
About that, man, twice in a row.
Yeah.
Who is my guest today? Very excited to have you here. And a little bit of background. Alan has over 25 years of experience as a chief marketing officer and P&L general manager for global B2B firms in health tech, SaaS domains with extensive cross-functional leadership experience in the go-to-market and finance functions. At Forrester, SiriusDecisions, Alan was a CMO executive advisor where he mentored over 108 CMOs, helping to improve their marketing performance, results, and business alignment. Since forming DemandRevenue in 2021, he has supported, and I don't know what the rest of that bio says because for some reason it got cut off on my thing here. So let me just find this here. Private equity portfolio companies. There it is. He has supported private equity portfolio companies as a fractional interim CMO and executive advisor to CMOs, marketing leaders. He helps clients build infrastructure to scale customer-led growth and stop random acts of marketing, which we're definitely going to talk about. He also advises and coaches CMOs to new levels of success and cross-functional alignments. Now, I'm going to need to catch a breath after that. And I'm sure we didn't even just scratch the surface of your career. What was young Alan like, back in your teenage years? Were you always interested in the marketing world and business and finance? Like, what kind of led you into where you're at in your career now?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me, Connor. It's great to be here. And so I really appreciate that. Let's see, when I was younger, I always loved music. I had really long hair when I was young. I was probably more into technology from the age of 10. I was an amateur radio operator or ham radio operator. So I spoke with every country in the world. It was a great hobby. And I actually traveled. I left middle of high school. I graduated half a year early, went to Europe for 8 months, visited a lot of the people that I knew, met a lot of new people. So I was always an extrovert and very social. But during that time, I think, some of the things I learned is a lot about global cultures and how really we're all the same the world over. We all have the same desires and, take care of our families and, love our friends and family and all that. And I really learned a lot in that way. And I was always into music and then when I went to school, I liked the quantitative aspects. So I got my master's in finance and started there, but very quickly got into marketing in my career. So I moved over from finance to marketing and general management, but that's always kind of helped me in my marketing roles.
What made you decide on the marketing side versus very dangerous combination, by the way? A lot of marketers kind of ignore numbers, get scared of numbers, technical details. It's kind of one or two. They're the major right brainers or, left brainers.
Yep.
And so you got kind of the combination.
Both. And that's what I love about marketing. And I blogged on that. I likened it to being an orchestra conductor where you've got your right brain, the creative side, you've got the left side of your brain, which is the analytical side. And I likened it to jazz and classical and being a good conductor or being, today's CMOs need to be a very versed general manager that can handle both the creative and the analytical sides and be very open and flexible to new technologies that are beginning to take the world over, like, AI, ML.
it's causing a lot of disruption. By the way, the long hair photos of you back when you're rocking the long hair, we'll get those. We'll get access to them, and anyone who subscribes, we're gonna place those in. But you got to subscribe
Uh-oh.
to get access. So that's kind of the if you want to see Alan with long rocking hair, I'm sure we'll
Been
find
a
a way to
while.
team him up. So what is it, now that has led you into being the go-to for high-level CMOs? There's a lot of, fractional guys,
Yeah.
consultant, maybe they're CMO for a few months, and now all of a sudden they're like, I can train any CMO to be super successful. But what is it in your particular case that has become proven to activate and work with these high level CMOs?
Well, a couple of weekends ago, I was wondering, so I counted how many times I've been a CMO, and I didn't realize it, but I've actually been a CMO 10 times, 7 full-time roles at different companies serially, and then 3 since I started DemandRevenue a little less than 3 years ago as an interim CMO or CMO advisor. But the reason I can say that about myself is I've been a CMO a number of times. So um, I've acquired companies and I've been acquired by companies. I've been down that trail. And then I spent 6 years with SiriusDecisions in the CMO advisory part of the business. And so what I did there is I mentored CMOs. And what I love most about it is helping over 100 CMOs not make all the same mistakes I've made my whole career. And we had tons of models and frameworks to, speed up the operational efficiency of CMOs and help them do their jobs faster and more accurately. And part of that was the operational efficiency, but also a lot of it was what I called marchiatry. I made up that word, but therapy, like how you get along with a culture, and how do you get along with the sales leader and the finance leader. And because of my finance background, I've always gotten along really well with CFOs. I've always enjoyed those conversations. So, and as you mentioned, that is a little unique for a marketing person.
Yet
But it's
nonetheless
helped
a
me.
skill every CMO, every marketer, every agency out there who's selling to the marketing department needs to really understand that persona.
Yeah.
I don't think they study that persona as
Yeah.
much as I've kind of looked at it after you've told me about that and others have told me about that.
I've taught some courses at a local university in the graduate school at Emerson College on as a marketing leader, how do you get your programs approved and how do you speak to CEOs and CFOs? So something I like, cross-functional alignment. And I believe, and I've seen this over and over and over and over again, there's still a problem with cross-functional alignment. And there's a huge economic benefit of alignment. The people who started SiriusDecisions, before I got there in 2014, and I stayed on 2 years after Forrester acquired us, and before I went out independent, did a study of 400 B2B companies. And they looked at the alignment between marketing, sales, product, customer success. And what they saw is that B2B companies that had really good cross-functional alignment, that got aligned and stayed aligned, grew 19% faster and were 15% more profitable. And that's over
Go
400 companies.
go
And that
deeper
study,
in Go deeper into that just to define what, cross-functional alignment actually means, because I think a lot of people think, yeah, we're in
well,
alignment. I
I'm
meet with my sales team once a month and do this and do that at a more technical level. What is true cross-functional alignment?
It starts with a relationship between the C-suite members. So if you're a CMO, how you align with your CFO, your CSO, your chief product officer, your CHRO, it kind of starts there, but then it has to trickle down in the organization and it has to transcend the planning process. The marketing, sales, product, customer success folks need to be on the same page in terms of the strategic direction. So they should set strategy together, and they should make sure that their annual business plans not only map to the strategy but are calibrated with each other. You don't want people moving in the same direction. So for example, when you think about how is a company going to grow, you can grow by new markets, new geographies, new products, M&A, productivity, which is, alignment between the different functions. But you can't do it all at once. You can't boil the ocean. So it's important that the C-suite members are on the same page about what the growth strategy is, and then what each function needs to do to align and calibrate with it. And it may sound simple, but I can tell you I've seen so many companies that have issues with that.
Well, and if it was so simple, the life cycle of a tenured CMO wouldn't be the shortest, and
Yeah.
everybody else in the C-suite, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
like, are you suggesting that part of the number one conflict and challenge for growth and growing in the marketing front is at the very top level, the cross-functional alignment?
I think that's a big part of it. That's
What
a big
else,
part of it.
in the hundreds of CMOs, what are the other 2 or 3 things that, like, across the board, and I know that you're a guy that sees, trends, pretty, like,
Yeah.
even without the numbers, you can kind of see them in your head, I'm sure. What are some of those other trends, factors that you've seen that, CMOs across the board are just, like, doing a really bad job with?
Well, or, need to improve or are improving in, depending where they are. Another one is random acts of marketing. If marketing isn't viewed as strategic and everybody says, do this, do that. And, marketing is chasing and just trying to, implement what people ask versus having a strategy. For example, an integrated campaign strategy. A lot of people have different ideas of what a campaign is. Oh yeah, we're doing a white paper campaign, or we're doing a demand campaign. A campaign should be an integrated long-term effort. It shouldn't have many campaigns. You may have many tactics in programs, but not many campaigns. And campaigns really need to be choreographed for growth in 4 areas: your brand reputation programs that usually come out of the marketing communications or corporate communications group, your demand programs, which include not only new logo demand, but upsell and cross-sell of existing clients, which is really, really important. Your customer engagement programs, things like Net Promoter Score, doing that properly, acting on the feedback you get from clients to improve your NPS scores and your growth, and have case studies. And then the 4th is sales and customer success enablement. What are the programs that marketing can create to help make sales more productive, to increase the ASP or the deal size, to decrease the cycle times and the sales cycles to close business? And those need to be coordinated and choreographed to drive growth. And the direction of campaigns and the messages need to be based on customer pain points and what they really care about. Another area, besides that, and so stopping random acts of marketing. If you have integrated campaigns, that'll help. If you have a coordinated and aligned planning process, that will help. If you organize the tactics and programs into those 4 areas in campaigns, and campaigns are decked against customer needs and not just all the products you want to push, I call product selfies. Do what the customers care about, what the real pain points are, the jobs they're trying to get done, and build your campaign strategy and messaging around that to drive growth.
Which of those 4 that you had just mentioned do you feel like most marketers are lacking, in current times, or lacking focus on, or maybe even resources on across the board?
Probably the customer engagement.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I sent you that clip of Jay Bear, when I had him on.
Yeah.
Same thing. Is it's almost, we're working so hard to acquire new customers, forget that the most profitable thing we can do is going so much deeper with our existing client base.
I'm a big believer in customer-led growth.
Mm.
And if you look at Fred Reichheld is the creator of NPS 20 years ago. He's been at Bain for 40 years. And he just came out with a book that talks about NPS 3.0, which I think is a real masterpiece. It's called Winning on Purpose by Fred Reichheld. And in there, he talks about, only about 10 or 11% of companies really get how to love customers and get, a wonderful customer experience. And he has a new metric he's calling earned growth, which basically is net revenue retention plus the amount of new business you get by existing customer referrals, promoters of your brand. And if you look at that, if you add that together, I mean, that's your future financial franchise of growing your business. Once you get beyond a certain stage and you have customers, it's really important that you understand your ideal customer profile on the front end so you get the right customers that you're going to be keeping and that you keep them happy and grow them over time. And what he's saying is only about 10% of companies do that really well. He's made a lot of money in the stock market by investing in those companies. If you look at his book, and a lot of it's basics. A lot of it is basics. Treat your customers the way you would want to be treated.
Guys, didn't know you were getting investment tips today too, and the marketing insights. Like,
he's made millions by investing in those companies that really get how to love customers and drive their cultures that way. It's a book I think that every CEO, CFO, CMO should read and take to heart.
And what was the name of the book again? And we can
Winning on Purpose by Fred Reichheld.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
What was NPS 3.0?
Net Promoter Score 3.0. He talks about how not to screw it up because a lot of companies are screwing it up because they're, making it. I'll give you one example. I bought an Audi years ago, and I was at the car dealership, and the SVP of sales came up to me and he goes, "Oh, you're going to give us a 10 on the rating, aren't you?" And I said, "Excuse me?" He said, You're going to give us a 10. I said, "I'm going to give you what I think you deserve. I'm not going to give you something you're trying to push me into. So don't even ask that question." But that happens a lot. So he talks about that, and he talks about earned growth as a new metric and how companies are using NPS successfully. And I've helped a lot of private equity portfolio companies through that process. And a lot of it's common sense. It's like, a lot of CEOs over-rotate on the score and not what you have to do to improve the score. So,
and maybe we're looking, sometimes the simplest answers like right in front of us versus as a marketer, as an executive. I even think I'm in a fairly nice apartment complex in downtown St. Petersburg on probably the second highest end of apartments down here. And constantly, even after the first week of being here, I'm getting emails from leasing office saying, "Leave us a review." And like almost every week I get, "Hey, give us a review." But I never had anyone reach out to me personally and be like, "What's your thoughts?" So, how is it living here? Like, what is it that you really wish we could improve on? What
you want the score, or do you really want to know? Do you want to have information that's going to help you improve things, which is the real value of it?
100%.
That's why you ask, that you've got a 0 to 10 rating, but that's why you ask, why did you say that? And it's gold, whether it's the promoters, the 9s and 10s, so you know what they love about you. It's the detractors, the 0s through 6s, or the passives in the middle, 7s and 8s. But whatever they tell you, whatever comments they give you, positive or negative, is like gold because you can use them if you listen to what they're saying.
Scared of feedback, for sure. That's where I think podcasting is like, a podcast doesn't have to be a public facing podcast, but if a CMO literally went out and interviewed for 5 to 10 minutes, their customers once a week, and rotated them through and took those insights, shared them with sales, deliverability, client success team, and all that. It's such a simple move you can make to get actual, like, if you're just focused on a number, based on that, you're not really getting true feedback. And when someone says, "Hey, I feel about this," we'll take that a step deeper. You won't hurt my feelings, I promise.
Right.
Take it a step deeper. What's really kind of, what would you really improve on? Like, even if you up and quit today, like that, we totally understand. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I think people have a fear of that. Back to, random acts of marketing. And I hear this from a lot of marketers. What is it that is, because if you're looking to solve and execute a lot of time it's not even what you add, but it's more about what you eliminate. The root cause of the issue that's going to help you be successful versus adding something new.
Yeah.
Is the random acts of marketing because us marketers are so ADD, shiny object, always trying to jump onto the next thing? Or is it a lot of the time executives, although they maybe have done alignment to align on their numbers, but then they're reporting to the board who's putting pressure on them on, hey, why the hell are sales down in Q1 and Q2? And so is it a lot of the time, are you seeing executives are saying, you know what, I know we had this as a plan, but I need you to get sales in quick. So jump from this and go into this. And then the time horizon isn't really there to see any one given initiative, especially on the B2B side all the way through. Or is that not the case? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's why campaigns should be bigger, fewer, and longer term, because they take a while to germinate. They take a while for people to get the message and actually respond to it. And your competitors will respond to it as well over time. So it doesn't mean you don't make adjustments to the campaign, but having a framework to organize all the tactics into programs and the programs into these program families, and understand and having metrics for each of the programs and understanding what you're trying to accomplish helps you be a lot more strategic and revenue generating. You can even take it down to the marketing budget. Those organizations that budget on the campaign level versus just marketing departments where each department tries to spend their money so they don't lose it for the next year. But, really budget on the campaign level where about 70 to 80% of your budget is based on campaign planning, and the rest, you always keep contingencies. Things will always change. Doesn't mean you're inflexible to change, but you want 80% of your activities to be decked against things that are going to move the business forward. And that requires thinking and a strategy and alignment with the other functions. So all the pistons are firing in the same direction: marketing, sales, product, customer success in your go-to-market function, and not working in silos. I think my 6 years at SiriusDecisions and Forrester, I used to call myself a silo buster, because kind of like Ghostbusters, because there's so many silos out there. And
we'll make some t-shirts, and
we could do that. Yeah. And that's why companies continue to have such an issue with alignment. I mean, you see it all over the place. The classic one is sales and marketing. Sales, give me more leads. I need more leads. Marketing gives more leads. Your leads suck. They're not closing. They're not qualified enough. So have a service level agreement and qualify the leads before you give them to sales. And by the way, now understand that MQLs, or marketing qualified leads, you want to get them, but that's a very small percentage of the people that could be interested in you. If you don't get intent data, and you don't know when people from the same company are crowding your website or looking for solutions like yours, if you don't have intent data and really act on it, you're missing the boat these days. Because most I know I'm kind of getting on a different track here, but most web visitors are anonymous. They won't give you the information until you're ready. Maybe only 3 to 5% will fill out a form and become an MQL. So you need to know who's coming to your website, or at least the company's coming to your website, crowding your website, or looking for solutions like yours.
Shameless plug. That's why we love tools like ConvertAvisit to give you all those details, and those buyer insights that are happening. You already paid and invested to get these people to your site, but like you said, only 3% of your entire market's ready to actually buy at any given time. 1 to 2% maybe in the B2B will actually convert, show a sign, and the rest of them, they're going to go look at competitors. They're going to go get other bids. But the stats show that first salesperson to make contact when they're in that cycle is 80% more likely to win that deal. Yeah. So, there's very simple things you can look at in that front. What is that time horizon that people should look at from launching campaign? I'll give you a great example, right? In the proven content side of the business, where we're supplying these very technical B2B businesses, long sales cycles, lots of decision makers, and feeding all this content out to their core channels. Sometimes it's every client's different. Sometimes it's 2 months, like, why haven't we made $1 million from this yet? And sometimes it's like 2 years down the road, and they're like,
exactly,
we got to keep it moving. So what is realistic to start on, executing a campaign, to be like, well, maybe I should pull this, adjust this, refine it? or maybe it is working, we're not even realizing it on the back end because we don't have analytic tools.
Well, let me get out my silver bullet. Every business is different, as you just pointed out, depending on the sales cycle. What I will say, and you want to match the campaign to the sales cycle, to the ASP or average selling price, to the segments you're selling to the, time it takes. But there's a process, you depending how disruptive your product is, you seed the market with thought leadership, and when people go through the buying process, they'll first be aware of something. And then the second thing is, oh yeah, we want to make a change. And they'll decide, yep, we want to make a change. We want to get a product or service like that. And then the third part of it is, who do we buy from?
Mm.
And so you'll have, you need different content at different points of the buyer's journey. But, it really depends, as you pointed out, depends on the sales cycle. What I will say, though, is too many organizations have like these quarterly, what they call campaigns. And, it may not even match things before people hear about it. So I look at campaigns and say they should be at least a year in length. And you want fewer, bigger campaigns that are well organized and choreographed and well aligned between marketing, sales, and product.
I think it's such a good point too, is okay, we need this social and this channel and this channel, because that's what I would say the marketing influencers are talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
But
all
then
in the
you look at
reputation part of campaigns.
But then you look at the executioners, the practitioners, and they're not doing 100 different channels. They're doing 3 or 4 very well, dialing them in, making them work, then testing out to another channel versus like starting testing with 10 different channels, maybe getting a little trickle here, and then they're getting kind of false positives, and then they're stuck, not having a really solid flow that's working. And obviously a big part of right now is leads. Like, economy's down, everything's down across the board. Every executive right now is like, I don't care, bring leads in the door, business. On that front, for net new side of things, just a generalization, if you could only have one channel to start with and stick into for B2B deals, where would you put that focus potentially?
Well, it depends on the ASP and the I mean, it's very different if you're if you've got a low ASP and a very short sales cycle versus, I mean, I'm and I have some experience with that, but I have a lot of experience in more SaaS models and health technology, and where you're trying to build a relationship over time. And so what you want to do is provide information and give, and not expect, not be pushy. And, people want to buy, not be sold to in general. So, I mean, having one channel.
Well, let me reframe a little
question.
bit. Let's say no matter what, our executive, our board, they cut our budget, and we can only affect into either outbound, or we can either really go all in on inbound. Okay, so let's say I could really only focus in on one. In today's environment, where would you put the most focus into?
Inbound is always closed far better than outbound, because people are coming to you from some kind of an interest. They want something that you have. They want to learn more. So I would focus more on always on and inbound tactics if you could only do one. But it's also true, and this may go counter to your question. McKinsey did a study on growth of companies that market through multiple channels versus just a couple. And the growth is far better with companies that market through a number of channels, because people buy where they want to buy today. Now, I also agree with what you said. You don't want to do too many things without being structured and strategic about it. I'm a big believer in trial and error. You want to fail fast, and that's usually the only way to find the path that's really working. So I'm a big believer in trying different things and then turning on or off the gas depending on the results that you get, assuming they're structured right and you have the right time frame and expectations around them. Does that make sense?
It is. It's It's and I understand it always depends, but as kind of a, I don't know, like a mind challenge or whatever, just a thought challenge to really think about, because it's also like on the inbound side, you need to have the patience to make it work. Yet, if you can really tap into it the right way, you got the best damn quality leads you could be working
Yeah.
with. In the outbound, you're going to get some low hanging fruit, but you might get a lot of false positives. And then,
Yes.
all of a sudden your marketing budget goes to 500 SDRs that you have, and then like nothing going into actually building the brand to reinforce the outreach that's happening. So I totally agree with you. It needs to be a little bit of both. Before we wrap up, something that, and if you want to take a couple seconds to think about this, uh, you've held as a long-standing belief about B2B marketing, right? Many years maybe, that
Yeah.
in recent months you've changed your mind on.
What have I changed my mind on versus
Something you've
many?
held as a long-standing belief about B2B marketing that maybe in recent months you've actually changed your mind about.
Yeah, and maybe it's a little longer in recent months. I've already touched on it a little bit, but I grew up with the demand waterfalls and, MQL, SQL, going through that. And what I've learned over the last probably year or two is the value of uncovering the anonymous visitors to your website, their behavior, what they're doing, when multiple people from the same company are coming to your website and crowding your website. The value of unlocking what the anonymous visitors are doing versus the folks that become MQLs. I think that's one where I've learned over time, when the new technologies do that. But technologies don't do anything by themselves. You need the people in the
Mm.
process. I mean, even, as a solopreneur, as a business of one, but I have a huge network of people I bring in as well to help engagements that I do with private equity. But as a solopreneur, I even have technology that shows me who comes to my website, and it's free. It's called Clearbit. I get a weekly report, and then I also have a report of people that, or domains and people that come to my website. And it's really good information to understand, what types of companies are coming in. Are they in your ICP? Where they go. And I have another technology called Lucky Orange, which I can look at how people navigate through my website, what they click on, which is really interesting. And it helps me understand more of, where people are going, what they're doing, and who's coming. And traditionally marketers haven't known that.
Yeah.
And if they're not, and I understand that
And they
transformation can be
toss it
difficult.
off, especially now, toss it off to like, "Oh, that's dark social, it's impossible for us to measure." And although that is part of the case, I'm sure you've heard that term, everyone's touting
Yeah.
this dark social arena, because, yeah, someone may see something you put on LinkedIn and then see you at an event and then see an email campaign you did and see an ad, and then all of a sudden, "Oh, I'm gonna go look up this company," and they land on your website. You can't match all those different touch points perfectly, but you
Right.
can at least capture, you know, them on the back end, as whereas not using tools like you've talked about, you'd be losing that otherwise.
And B2B is multi-touch. It always has been.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be one thing, but I think that would be one area.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also I've learned, not the past few months, but I'm, as I said, I'm big on customer-led growth. I think that's far more important than, marketing traditionally is focused on just new logos. And if you do that and you're not focusing on your customer growth, or you're not focusing on the anonymous visitors to your website, as many are not yet, sooner or later you're going to be left behind.
You used to be able to burn and turn through a lot more clients. Now, especially 2024 and beyond, it is that retention is everything.
Yeah.
Would you agree with
Churn
that?
and retention is really important. So as a marketer, even though a lot of CFOs may not expect it, you need to be on top of that as a business leader.
Talk a bit about demand revenue, what it is you actually do
Oh,
for some
okay.
of these companies now, and just a high level, how people can maybe engage with you if they're looking for support on that front.
Yeah. So I do three things. And most of what I do is for private equity investors and their portfolio companies. Although I sometimes work with venture portfolio companies. So I've been an interim or fractional chief marketing officer, 3 companies in the last 2.5+ years since I started DemandRevenue. I also mentor, advise, and coach chief marketing officers and marketing leaders, VPs of marketing, as I did with SiriusDecisions and Forrester.
And that's
As
not
you mentioned,
just the technical stuff, but I mean, almost as a counselor in some cases in your case, because in any executive position, you could have family stuff going on, stuff with employees. What's
yeah,
unique about you, from my understanding, is you go to that level of depth of mentorship with these
I
CMOs.
do. I do. But a big part of it, at least half of it, is marketing skills and things like strategy, alignment, annual planning, um, integrated campaigns, brand positioning and growth, organization design, metrics and C-suite dashboards, that kind of stuff. So I do that. So I mentor, I advise, mentor, and coach CMOs and marketing leaders. And then the third thing is I do projects for CMOs and their team. So I have one client now, I'm helping them with an ideal customer profile projects, about $1 billion client in the HR tech space. I have another client, I'm helping them through a repositioning, renaming, and rebranding, which is a digital transformation company. I've done a lot with health IT and in the healthcare space. But those are the 3 things I do. And in terms of engaging with me, just, drop me either an email at ag@DemandRevenue, or call me, or leave something on my website. I also have
Even
on
if
my
you don't,
website,
he'll know you're there anyways. They'll give you a, you know,
I also have laser advisory sessions I do for $9.99 for an hour to go through strategy and help. Initially, one or multiple laser advisory sessions, but just reach out to me if there's an interest, and I'm happy to have a conversation first to see if there's a reason to work together. But I love doing that. I love mentoring and advising CMOs and marketing leaders, and I've
yeah.
also done that with chief customer officers as well.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I talk to a lot of people, man. Your authenticity certainly comes across. This
Thank
was
you.
definitely one of my favorite podcasts I've ever done. So
Oh,
thank you
thanks.
for sharing your wisdom and insights. And there's a whole lot more, we could definitely dive into on some other aspects. So we'll definitely have to, you're welcome anytime
Thank you,
here
Connor.
to nerd out and get some good content. And so for the rest of you, by the way, I forgot to tell this to you, Alan.
Yeah.
Make sure you hang on so the recording can render before we wrap up. So just make
Okay.
sure you stick around for a quick second. And the rest of you, again, this was free to you. So please, if you got any value out of this whatsoever, make sure to share it. If not only for you, I guarantee you there's somebody in your network who's going to get great insights out of this podcast. You can subscribe, opt in. B2B Mentors is on all your favorite podcast apps. Much love to you, my friends. Make it great. And we'll see you on the other side.